Hey, Geekscapists, welcome to a brand new Geekscape episode. I'm Jonathan London, your host, and this is your first Geekscape. Strap yourselves in for some pop culture talk, movies, video games, comic books, TV, video games, especially this episode. Sometimes we have musicians on. Did you guys listen to the Amber Pacific episode 2 episodes ago? Or what about last episode? We talked about putting together that awesome graphic novel. Have you guys ordered that thing? Return of the Monsters by my good friend Shannon Denton. You guys should. It'll be awesome. I can't wait. I ordered the hard cover version and it looks beautiful. Absolutely looks beautiful. Had a lot of comic books this past weekend, but if you are into this pop culture stuff, you're in the right place. Maybe you're watching on YouTube, maybe you're watching on Twitch or Facebook or whatever. I think, though, based on the numbers, you're just listening on the podcast feed that we've had since 2006. So for you long timers, and I'm talking about you, Nathan Church, who I hung out with in Palm Springs. Thanks for making the trip down from Fresno. Did I get that right? It's good hanging out with you on Saturday. If you're a longtime listener, you know how we do it. I like to talk storytelling with creative. Maybe they're actors, filmmakers, video game creators, voice actors, whatever you got. Musicians, obviously. And we talk about storytelling. We talk about the stories they've told. We talk about the book they just put out. This episode is my friend comedian Mike Drucker. He has a brand new book called Good Game, No Rematch. It's a biography about growing up with video games as a major influence in your life. It's hilarious. The pieces I've read are really, really funny. And we're going to talk about the book with Mike. It's out this week. If you're watching live, it's out tomorrow. If you're listening the week of, you guys go to Amazon and get this thing right now. I have not read the entire thing because of WonderCon, but I got to tell you, WonderCon was really rewarding. I got to give my comic to Mr. Jim Lee, head of DC Comics. 2 years ago, I bought him a coffee. He remembered. I said, Jim, do you remember me buying a coffee for you at Starbucks there at San Diego Comic-Con? And he said, yeah, I do, actually. I said, well, cool. Here's my comic book. You can have that too. And Mark Waid. I like Mark Waid's Robin and Batman comic right now, and his World Finest Batman Superman comic. So I got to give him a copy. And Dan Slott, who wrote a super long Spider-Man run, and I loved it. And now he's still writing some Spider-Man books. And I got to talk to Dan Slott for a bit and be like, dude, here's my comic. And I probably gave out a ton more. I sold a couple. I was on a wrestling panel. A lot of that content's going to be on the Geekscape feed on the next couple days, next 2 weeks. So subscribe if you're only listening to this. And you're like, I don't know about this Geekscape thing. Subscribe, and you're going to get a lot of that WonderCon content, a lot of the interview stuff, and the panel about wrestling and comic books that I was on, promoting Paul London, Hero of the Prophecy. My brother did not. He was wrestling in Connecticut. He did not make WonderCon, but yeah, we'll get him. All right, let's start the show. You guys got the gist of it. We'll be right back with Mike Drucker talking a ton of video games in this awesome, hilarious new book, Good Game, No Rematch. This is Geekscape. Let's go. All right, Geekscape is Mike Drucker. He is an 8-time Emmy-nominated television writer, comedian, author. He's in New York, so he's staying up late to be here with us. And maybe that's just my idea of late, is 9 p.m. on the East Coast, because I fall asleep at 8 p.m. on the West Coast as a brand new dad, as you guys know, because I've turned this show into my freaking Truman Show. He's written for Late Night, The Tonight Show, Bill Nye Saves the World. We know we love Bill Nye. Adam Ruins Everything. He was the head writer and executive producer on Full Frontal with Samantha Bee, which I think was a hilarious show and awesome. And he also won 2 Writers Guild Awards for that one. But this is the stuff I love right here. He's written for Nintendo, Valve. He wrote that Half-Life game that's not come out yet. I'm just kidding. Sony. He's working on all sorts of stuff. He did do the English language scripts for Kid Icarus Uprising, which I will go to the mat with. That is the best 3DS game. Kid Icarus Uprising. I'm saying it right now. I'm looking you in the eyes, Geekscape, if you're watching this on video, and I'm going to tell you right now. You may love all the other stuff on the 3DS, and 3DS is an incredible system. It's an awesome system. But Kid Icarus Uprising, when all is said and done, now the life of the 3DS is pretty much done. That was the best game on the 3DS. I was completely impressed with what they put in that game. There was so much in that game, and it was so much fun. And they did a great job on that one. And now we're going to talk about Good Game No Rematch, his brand new book from HarperCollins. And you should go order it. There's Mike right there on Geekscape.
Hello.
How are you, man?
Hello.
You played the 3DS a bit, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. I love my 3DS. I have two of them. I have the original, then I have like the larger new 3DS.
That doesn't fold.
No, not the 2DS.
Right.
It's like called 3DS. New 3DS XL or whatever.
Yeah, I got the thing. I got the thing right away. I thought it was so awesome when they brought it to E3, and I'm sitting there going, "Oh my god! Like this lenticular stuff is actually working pretty well." I'm blown away by this. And I liked Metroid Prime Hunter or whatever the Metroid Prime game was. I liked some of the stuff they were doing on the 3DS. But that Kid Icarus Uprising, what did they not put in that game? That game was crazy.
It was super fun to work on. We were lucky that we got to I was on the localization team, to be clear, at Nintendo America.
Yeah, I know you didn't make the game.
This is for the audience, though. The audience, so you know what my job was I was helping to write the English language script and working with localization, but it was in development as we were writing it. So we were actually like communicating with the Japanese team every morning, and they were getting back to us with notes. So it was actually like a super, super fun process.
Yeah, I think that was one of the most impressive games on the 3DS, looking back at it. And just reading your bio and being like, dude, his words came into my brain. And years ago. And I know it was years ago, but I still have people who are like wrestling fans who come up to me and be like, dude, I remember like seeing your name in the credits for Raw versus SmackDown. Those were in 2008, dude.
That's
2009.
So cool.
Yeah, except when I was playing those games as my brother, he didn't even do his mocap. My brother did not do the mocap. I think his buddy Frankie did his own mocap, but he did it so well that I had this visceral feeling when somebody would beat up my brother on screen. I wanted to knock the controller out of their hands.
That makes sense, though.
I didn't like watching him wrestle. I'm watching him wrestle this coming Saturday. I think he's wrestling in Long Beach as part of this. I don't know what his new promotion is, but I think he's got some skin in the game. And his tag partner, Geekscape, this is crazy if you haven't heard this. Paul Walter Hauser, Oscar nominee. Paul Walter Hauser.
You could have given me 100 guesses, and I would not have guessed that.
Mike, this started happening years ago. This guy from what was the I, Tonya?
Yeah, I, Tonya.
And he was in the Clint Eastwood movie about the Atlanta Olympics.
Yeah. I forgot what it was called, but I know what you're talking about.
My brother was like, "Hey, I'm hanging out with this guy Paul," and I was like, "You're Paul?" And he's like, "No, I have a friend named Paul. He's an actor." And he's driving me up to. Paul's been living in Orange County. He's like, "Hey, he's driving me up to LA. Like, are you around?" And I'm like, "Sure." Like, your dude doesn't mind giving you a ride. It's kind of far away. He's like, no, he lives in Sherman Oaks, but like we were doing some training down in Orange County. I was like, yeah, seems like a nice guy. He's like, yeah, his name's Paul Walter Hauser. I was like, the Oscar nominated Paul Walter Hauser. He's like, yeah, he wants to wrestle, and I've been training him to wrestle. And now they're a tag team.
That's so cool. That's honestly so cool.
I think Paul trained him for the Fantastic Four. I think he was up for the Thing role. He obviously didn't do the Thing role, but he's got another role in the movie. So he impressed them. Maybe he impressed them with the wrestling skills. But I'm going to see both Pauls this Saturday.
Paul Squared.
And Paul Squared in the Squared Circle.
Yeah.
And life is freaking weird, dude. That's how that went down. That is how that went down. I don't know if the Geekscapists know that, but That is my life. Mike, you grew up in Florida.
Yes, sir.
But what was the goal? Like, what was the dream? Were you always like the writer? Not like you had to get out of Florida. I understand.
Yeah, I had to get out of Florida. That was the goal.
If that was your only dream, you nailed it. You nailed it.
I actually, as a little kid, I really, I mean, I always liked stories. So I always liked telling stories and I always liked comedy. But as a kid, I really wanted to make video games and I just wasn't very good at programming. So I was kind of like, okay, well, if I'm not a good programmer, I guess I'll just get something else to do. Because I tried for years. And I know that it's one of those things where if you stick with it or you find the right program or the right people, you can do it. It was like when I took karate. I thought I wanted it and I didn't.
But this is like what, the 80s? Like what are you going to program?
90s.
Yeah, but what are you going to program it in? Turtle? Do you remember Turtle?
I do remember Turtle, but like, you know, I mean, we were doing C++, Pascal.
Sure. That's monotonous.
It was
Don't
not
worry
for me. I mean, I appreciate how hard it can be because I know, you know, sometimes it's underestimated, but like, so I just, you know, I was also good at writing. So I kind of decided to focus on writing and I knew I wanted to go to a big city for college. I just didn't want to go to like a small city campus. And I basically only applied to 2 schools. I applied to NYU and the University of Miami because I knew I could get into the University of Miami. And I was like, well, I want to live in New York City. And I got into NYU and went out there and started writing. I started writing for magazines and stuff. I would write like little funny articles here or there. I interned for a pet magazine called Animal Fair where I think I got a byline eventually.
Pet fancy.
It's not pet fancy. It's like it wanted to be pet fancy, and I don't think it ever was. But like I wrote an advice column from the perspective of the editor-in-chief's little poodle.
You son of a what? How long did that go on?
One semester. I just did it for a semester.
And I should have kept going.
I mean, the thing is they were paying me nothing for those articles. And when I asked, they were like, oh, well, we can like help you get free Broadway tickets sometime. And I was like, no, don't give me the free stuff you're getting. Can
you resell the free Broadway tickets?
Oh, yeah, I should have thought of that. See, that's why I need to have met you earlier.
Resell those Broadway tickets, dude.
I should have thought of that. That's actually
no offense, but like everybody else is reselling them, right? Isn't that the hustle? You walk around Broadway.
This was like 2002 or 3, though, so I think that was rare.
I got you. Yeah, I was there in New York. That was when I was in grad school in New York, and yeah, I think that the hustle was everybody had a hustle in New York.
Yeah.
Everybody had a hustle. I fell for one where a dude brushes up against me, and he's holding broken glasses, like they're already broken.
Glasses,
yeah, and they walk in the opposite direction of you, and they bump you. And then they stop you. They have to be bigger than you because they have to intimidate you. And they say that you broke their glasses. And you give them like $20-$40 just to go away.
Yeah, jeez.
Have you seen that one?
No, I haven't seen that one. I've seen things somewhat like that, but not like that.
That's one of the hustles. One of the hustles is walk around with broken glasses. To which after you give them the $20-$40 just to go away because you don't want to get you don't want it to escalate. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. No, I didn't. And the dude gets closer to you, and I just go away.
Right.
But as you're walking away, you're like, "Who the f walks around with their glasses in their hand?"
Yeah.
Like who the what, dude? What? This guy was walking around with glasses in his hand. Okay, they should have gotten broken if you're walking around with your glasses in your hand.
It seems like you can see fine.
Dude, that wasn't even the weirdest New York experience I had. When I came up to intern at MTV, like I told you that first time, when I came up to interview for it, I take the I don't know if I've told the story on Geekscape. We're going to get to your story somewhere. Sorry. But we're on New York. I have to tell this. I take SEPTA to New Jersey Transit, and I come out of Penn Station. I've been to London, but I'd never been in a city like that's as immersive as New York like that. Mm-hmm. Right? Like it's just different. It's different than London. London feels like it's a couple cities, but with roundabouts, it's got all this different stuff. But New York, when you walk out of Penn Station, it's like they set up a presentation for you.
Yeah.
And they were like, let's put the Chrysler Building or let's within sight, and let's put the Empire State Building and Madison Square Garden right the F there.
Yep.
Like we want people from out of town when they come out of Penn Station just see New York. And if you don't smell those like roasted chestnuts or whatever the heck they got, and those, if you aren't like smelling hot dogs when you come out, right? It's a presentation. I'm like looking up at the city. Not that Austin, Texas is a small town. Not that coming from Philly is a small town, but like I'm looking at the freaking like Empire State Building, and I'm trying to make my way to Times Square, and I bump somebody, and I'm like, oh, not like knocked to the ground, but it's like, oh, sorry. And I look, and it is this Dennis Rodman looking prostitute. She is haggard.
Yeah.
And she looks at me with a lollipop in her mouth. And she's, excuse me, would you like a nice juicy? And then she describes this act.
Yeah.
And I was so taken aback.
What did you say? Was it
she
yes
said,
or no?
she solicited she solicited a fellatio, and she said, would you like a nice juicy? And I said, no, I'm sorry, ma'am. No, thank you. No, not right now. I'm late for a job interview. I gotta go. Could you help me point me to Times Square? I was very polite.
Yeah.
But I was still shaking when I interviewed for the gig. I was like, welcome to New York, dude. Welcome to New York.
You had like the Kevin McAllister in New York.
Totally. Oh my God, totally.
It's not much better in here, kid.
It was some City Mouse stuff. Like, yeah, I felt like I'd walked into Frank Miller's like New York. You know what I mean? Like steam everywhere. Yeah. Like, everybody talks like this. I was like, oh, this is Frank Miller's New York from Daredevil, where it's all crime ridden. I don't think you got the same experience at NYU, or maybe you did.
No, I mean, I definitely had I don't think I came out of it. Nobody accosted me when I got here at first, so I think I had a leg up on you.
Sure.
But no, I liked it. I think it took me a moment to acclimate. I double majored in English and journalism, so I decided, even though I'm not a big sports person, I decided to cover sports for the school newspaper because journalism was a big program at NYU.
Did you write it as
nobody wanted to write sports?
You should have written you should have kept the theme and written as Air Bud.
This was before this. Yeah, no, no, that would have been the worst. That would have been. They were already so strict at that newspaper. They would have had some weird standards that I had to meet to make sure.
Don't those college kids take themselves a bit way too seriously? These college newspaper kids. Because at Penn, I was like, I like writing. I'm going to the journalism school. I'm going to Annenberg. Maybe I'll try doing some newspaper stuff. And that's how people that you and I probably like Conan O'Brien, got to the National Lampoon. And Penn had their version of the National Lampoon and all that stuff. And I show up, and these kids are taking this journalism stuff and college journalism stuff way too seriously. They're the written equivalent of Boom Goes the Dynamite guy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But I mean, but the thing is, NYU is not a sports school, so the only section nobody wanted to write for was sports. So I took that up because I was like, oh, I can start getting published immediately rather than being an assistant journalist who has to wait till he's a junior to start getting articles in.
Yeah.
And so but the thing was I had to go to the NYU hockey game, which is at Chelsea Piers. And now that's a 20-minute walk from my dorm, which now is the easiest thing in the world. But when I first did that, I thought I was going on a journey. It felt like I needed a walking stick and a giant backpack. It seems
in the
so
winter?
far. Sorry?
Dude, in the winter?
Oh, yeah.
No.
And I wasn't used to that at first.
Yeah, no, the winter, these buildings, and they're like, oh yeah, it's a grid. It's perfect. No. It's built like a damn wind tunnel.
Oh, man.
Oh my God, it's so cold. It is unnaturally cold. You look at the temperature, and you're like, it ain't that bad. It's the wind. It's the wind in the rivers.
It's the wind. It's when you get hit by that cold wind, it sucks. You have to lean into to walk.
Move to LA, get out here, man.
Well, I was out there for 2 years. But then jobs brought me back to New York. I have bounced around the country from Florida to New York, to Seattle, to San Francisco, to New York, to LA, to New York.
Do you even like hockey when you're writing this stuff? The hockey stuff?
Oh, well, you know what? My brother was into hockey, so I'm not a massive hockey fan, but because I wanted to support my little brother who was playing it for his school, I, learned it and I understood enough. So I liked it enough. It wouldn't have been my first choice to cover sports at all, but I was going to do the best job I could if I was going to do it.
Absolutely. I was so focused on getting into college radio because all my heroes were people like Conan and Dave
Yeah.
and then there were broadcasters. And Greg Kinnear on Talk Soup is the one that gets overlooked a lot. Greg
He was
Kinnear
good
on
on
Talk
that.
Soup
I remember
was
that.
like, to me, he was doing the most with the least. It was clear like he was an actor,
Yeah.
but here he was doing this kind of weird hosting gig on a really weird network. I miss the VH1s and the E televisions and the MTV2s when they were like, let's just throw it against the wall and see if it works.
They were
I
like,
miss that stuff.
So much stuff, like so much experimental stuff. So many like small sketch groups would get a shot to like become famous.
Mm-hmm.
What a time to be alive.
And he was a hero. So when I showed up, I was like, I'm gonna do journalism, and then I found out like it was all, Annenberg is all about analysis and making sure the media is doing this and that. But I was like, where's the radio station? And the singers were like, yeah, we'll give you a show.
I have not done journalism
on Sundays. 8 a.m. on Sundays is the show they gave me, and I took it.
I would have too. That's the thing, is like, if you're smart, you take the opportunity. If you're like, okay, well, this will get me something, I'll take it.
And Mike, it was when the internet started streaming.
Oh yeah,
you could start streaming, and so we didn't have listeners on campus. No, everybody's hungover, but we had weird listeners everywhere else,
which is kind of cooler.
It was crazy. They were like, listen on Winamp or whatever these weird Windows media players are.
Yeah, like, God.
Yeah, there were tons of them.
QuickTime.
Mm-hmm. The old and we lived for that, man. We lived for these like disparate little weirdos that would listen to that stuff, man. And it felt punk rock. And then as you become a senior and you start getting a little more, by the time you're a sophomore, junior, you start getting bigger gigs, as I'm guessing you did as well, right? Like,
I actually once I started doing comedy in my junior year, I kind of moved my entire focus to that, which I even stayed an extra year to get a master's just because like they had a program that would let you do that. Just because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing.
A master's in 1 year is pretty like, yeah, why not?
Yeah. Well, it's like you have to meet a certain threshold at the end of your junior year, and then your senior year you take master's classes along with your regular classes, and then one more year and you do master's classes and get your degree. Anyway, I was so into comedy that I literally went to grad school just so I could take out more loans to focus on something. Which I did pay off. Which comedy did pay for college eventually, so it panned out, but it should not have. Like, there is a world where I owe a lot of money to write a very long paper about the sorrows of young Werther. Like, Yep.
Yeah, that was somewhere like the large, like I was telling you before you started that I think that Y2K is what split the multiverse.
Yeah.
And that somewhere like there's like the summer 99 and like all those cool things that we had towards the end of the 2000s, like, or the 90s, like that stuff just kept going. You know what I mean? And now we turned a different direction, as we're all seeing currently. People are like, we're in the worst timeline. I'm like, yep. We should have stayed in the Enema of the State, Blink-182, Tom DeLonge Never Leaves timeline. We should have just stayed on that timeline.
I mean, like, you look back and it's almost like you wonder if the trigger is like too many people investing in pets.com. Like, if it's some small weird thing that caused this big downfall of society.
Do you remember those websites that was like the race to get the .coms?
It was insane. And that was like all the money was just like, I own groceries.com. I'm a billionaire now. I'm gonna camp on this.
Yeah. And I can't wait. And like people are like, oh, we couldn't believe the .com bust happened. What? You're saying to make the sites work, dork? It was like there's gold in these chips. No, there's not. Stop buying those weird domains. So we got to talk about this video game stuff because I think we parallel. I mean, we clearly parallel in the 2000s, but you say in the book, you really have a lot of praise for the one that got me into it, which was the 86 NES.
Yeah.
You go into the Game Boy.
Yeah.
Game Boy changed my damn life.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. Absolutely. Especially
having that thing in your pocket.
Yeah.
And the best road trip was from Austin to Dallas so that you could compete in the Nintendo Championships.
That's amazing.
That was the best.
That's amazing.
And in the newspaper, Geekscape is, they would say there's going to be 200 Game Boys, and I was in, and they were premiering a brand new game, Final Fantasy 1. That was one of the best experiences of my life. I choked like a frog, but that was one of the best experiences of my life. What was the game for you? What was the thing for you that you were like, yes, I'm playing with my brothers.
Yeah.
But this is my game. This is the one that got me.
I mean, weirdly, and I have a chapter about it, but like, you know, because we didn't have a ton of money when I was a kid. So it was kind of like you bought what you could. You'd like scrape together your old birthday and Christmas money. And so I really wanted to get Mortal Kombat. And the only one I could afford was Mortal Kombat for the Game Boy, which is now known as a famously awful port. But when I was like, you know, 8 or 9, maybe younger, it was sort of like, all right, well, this is my game for the next 5 months. And I like put everything into it. And I like learned to love this torturously bad port of Mortal Kombat just because like I was super excited to get Mortal Kombat. So like the fact alone that it was Mortal Kombat made me love it. But also like I had to convince myself I had made a good purchase.
You had to make it. You had to buy in. Yeah. You had to justify it. What were some of the other games that Game Boy supported? Like, did you afford other games? Did you trade with friends and get other games? Like, what were the other ones that you remember? Because for me, like that Final Fantasy game that they had where you're just climbing a tower and each level has some different stuff. Like, I thought that Final Fantasy game was awesome.
Yeah.
You know?
And I didn't, you know what? I wish I understood those when I was younger. It wasn't until I was like a teenager that I like kind of got what an RPG was really and like went back and finished them. Because when I was like 6 or, you know, when I was a little kid, I was like, I don't get what I'm doing wrong here. But I really loved like weird ones like, you know, Lock and Chase, which was like an old, you know, it's like whatever games that I could get, I played a lot of Alleyway, which is just Breakout with Mario jumping into a paddle at the beginning. You know, I think the one that I probably put the most into, which, you know, is the same for a lot of people, is Pokemon Blue or Red. But I was blue. I was blue, and my brother was red. Yeah.
Yes.
And that was amazing.
Gargoyle's Quest.
That's a really good one.
Gargoyle's Quest is so overlooked.
Yeah.
And it has those RPG elements, but then it kind of does the Link's, you know, the Adventures of Link thing with the two, you have an overworld map and then suddenly you're in these 2D platform levels, but it was awesome. That one I feel like was the Kid Icarus Uprising of the Game Boy. And I played Mother a little while ago, and I played Homebound and all that stuff, like when they came to the Virtual Console and the Switch. And that's only Earthbound. It was only then that I realized that those Pokemon games were built on that engine, where you could have an in-town bike and the fighting system and this and that. But that was that hooker summer that I was turning at New York, the summer of '99. That was the summer of Pokemon Red to me, and it was debilitating. I'm a little bit older than you, I guess, and knowing
like
that
3 years,
and I could have had the coolest summer, single, living in New York City, working at MTV.
Yeah, that's you're setting yourself up for a great time. So what'd you do?
I bought the fucking Game Boy Color, and I bought Game Boy. I bought my buddy Kevin was still back at the radio station in Philly for that summer. He was recording for World Cafe or one of the WXPN shows. And he had the job for the summer. And so I got him Game Boy Color, Pokemon Blue as a sign of like friendship. And then I kept Pokemon Red for myself. And whenever we'd see each other that summer to record bands or go to the Warped Tour, we would trade Pokies as grown-ass men. It got so debilitating that I would lay down at night. I'd play it so much that I would go to bed at night and I would hear the damn music. And I thought I'd left my Game Boy on. And I would get up and I would check and the game is off. And then I'd go back to sleep and I'd still hear the music. I was insane.
As you're saying that, I can like hear the music. Like
no girls all summer.
Yeah.
But Mewtwo. I got a Mewtwo.
I mean, Mewtwo's got some thick thighs. You're good. You're basically solid.
The only time that has happened to me recently, and this is as a grown adult a few years ago, 2015, Clash of Clans, the Supercell game on your phone. I had to cold turkey that because I was like, dude, you left your cell phone on. Clash of Clans is running. I could hear the damn music. That was it.
Yeah.
I was done. I had to turn it off because it was driving me insane. Have you had games in your life where you hear the damn music and you think you left the system on?
I mean, Pokemon, definitely. You know what? Super Mario World. For some reason, that soundtrack hit at the right time where, like, if I even play it for like an hour or two, I will just hear that music. I'll hear how there's a layer of percussion added if you get on Yoshi, like everything about it.
It's a perfect game.
It's so good.
And you kept the Nintendo tracked because when Sonic was coming out, I never paid for anything in my life until Sonic. Like, I never wanted to. I'd buy comics. My allowance always went to comics. And suddenly the Sonic thing is coming out.
Yeah.
And that was my system, the Genesis, because I'd mow the lawns for the Genesis. Yeah. And Sonic was the thing that I had the most pride in because it was the first thing I earned for me. And
that's really cool.
So when the Super Nintendo was doing its thing, and my friend Blake Harris wrote a beautiful book, Console Wars. Have you read Console Wars?
I've read that.
Dude, yeah. Blake is awesome. Blake is a great writer, and that's a fantastic. His next documentary is on Larry David. Larry David gave him like crazy access, and his next book is on Larry David. But when this is the Console War era, and when everybody started getting the Super Nintendo, I just didn't feel. I felt a loyalty to the blue blur, and I was like, but I mean, we still. I mean, neighbors got Super Nintendo. We still. I mean, Donkey Kong Country. You couldn't resist that game. It was super impressive. Game. But what about the PCs, Mike? Like, were you parallel with a PC at that point? Because Monkey Island, The Curse of Monkey Island, that kind of humor, that stuff, that's perfect. King's Quest, the Sierra Adventure games.
I've got a chapter about King's Quest.
Yeah, I know. Chapter. You and I are cut from the same cloth, my friend. Those adventure games are incredible. Okay.
We had a PC, but it was kind of like, because we got it for my dad to use for work because he did a lot of like spreadsheet stuff for his job. And so, but that meant like power wasn't necessarily like the biggest focus. And so we usually still would sneak some Leisure Suit Larry.
You'd still sneak some Leisure Suit Larry.
That's what we do is like, we'd buy those like, like CD packs that were like vertical packs of CDs. And sort of like, like one would be a random encyclopedia about fish. And then one would be like a workout thing, but then you'd get like King's Quest 5. Yeah. And so he would get those because those were always on sale or, just cheap.
EB Games. Or
absolutely. CompUSA, anywhere that had that stuff. So we did, but like we were always a little behind. But that's why I think, like you're saying, I love those point and click adventure games because they usually worked on DOS.
They were awesome, and I remember Apogee just before Apogee came out with. I think the Wolfenstein was the one that really put them on a different tier.
Yeah,
but the shareware games where you click into a modem and you download. The first level of something that you would then have to go buy the rest of in a store. Yeah. And those games like Commander Keen or those platformers and stuff like that, like, fuck yes. That is my entire Saturday, Sunday before going back to school.
The original Duke Nukem's games before 3D, same thing.
Those platformers, I think they're almost like lost to history. I think people look back and I think they're looked at. I don't think they're looked at all. Personally, I think that people are like, no, the first GTA was GTA 3.
Right.
No, it wasn't.
And I think a lot of it is like whether or not companies, care about their history. That's an unfair way to say it, but like push their history. Like people know about Wolfenstein 3D because Wolfenstein 3D appears in random games made by, id forever.
And they've remade it.
And they've remade it. They've re-released it a ton of times. They put it on every platform. And I think that keeps the memory of it alive. Whereas like, you and I are talking about King's Quest. There's someone who's listening that's like, I'm going to have to look up what that is.
Dude, please don't make me depressed, guys. Don't look like just know that like at least there was a new Monkey Island game in the last 5 years and it was
that's
great.
What I mean. Yeah.
But guys, Commander Keen, like let's bring him back. Let's get this guy.
Jackrabbit.
Yes, Math Jackrabbit. You know what I tried optioning? Well, there were a couple things that as a Hollywood like filmmaker and stuff like that. You're like, I wonder what the cheap options are.
Yeah.
I looked into Lemmings, but Psychoness got bought by Sony, and suddenly I was like dealing with a behemoth. But Lemmings, as like a movie about like a kids animated movie about individuality, is like, wait, Jonathan, like, how do you cut out the fact that they're all dying around?
Yeah, that's the hard part.
But I always thought that character design was awesome.
Oh, it's,
you know what I mean?
It's such, the thing is, you're right, it's such great character design, and there's so much to do with the concept, but they are cheerfully marching to their
cheerfully falling into magma. The other one that we did a little inquiry on was Frogger, as like an over the hedge type movie.
That's actually really,
it could work.
Yeah, that could definitely
we'll talk
work.
off on it.
Yeah,
but like, this fool finally sees himself far away from his home, and he's got to get back, and you're gonna have to go through the swamps.
Yep.
And across the freeway, whatever. But like, I don't know, you always have those ideas, right?
Yeah.
And like this stuff. But video games have always been just parallel with all of our storytelling. You know, as you write your scripts, as you write your jokes, they're all informed by this stuff.
Yeah.
You know, the Sierra and LucasArts, those adventure games, like Space Quest was the funny one.
Space Quest was the funny one.
You
Leisure
know?
Suit Larry was also supposed to be funny, but often Space Quest, I think, kind of lapped it in terms of comedy.
Space Quest was funnier.
Yeah,
it was just funny.
Absolutely.
Leisure Suit Larry was, you know, it had no choice but to go blue.
It
was blue. The whole
it was blue, but like in a way, even as a kid, I was like, okay, I get what's going on here. It's just not making me laugh. Like I'm a kid. I should love this.
Well, there were a couple things, and the one thing in the book that I thought was hilarious was you have this list of video game manuals by decade, and it is so accurate. Because in the 1970s, they're like comparing themselves. Like, I think the first system I ever played a game on, the first console, was an Atari clone called the Odyssey.
I've heard of that.
And their Pac-Man port wasn't Pac-Man and Ghosts. It was Cats and Dogs. And you're either a cat or a dog. You're a cat, and the dog's chasing you, but you can turn them into mice in the same way that you can turn the ghosts vulnerable. I think you turn the dogs into mice. I think that's how this game worked, this Pac-Man clone. Mm-hmm. But you're right. In the 70s, it was like super enthused. And then the 80s, it turned into like Reagan era Rambo stuff.
It's so like stand up straight, soldier.
Yeah.
You need to match blocks.
And then in the 90s, everything is tubular.
Everything's tubular.
Everything is a Capri Sun commercial.
Yeah.
Or like Gushers.
Oh, yeah. Every commercial had an old lady saying, "You better not be eating that snack."
And it's in an extreme camera with a fisheye lens on it.
Always a fisheye lens on it.
The pinnacle, Geekscape, is of that kind of language is what brought you the, rest in peace, Paul Walker, legendary film, Meet the Deedles. Like that, I think, was like, it all led to Meet the Deedles. Remember that movie, Meet the Deedles? And they're like, surf, dude, where's my car?
I haven't seen it. I need to see that now.
You know what I'm talking about.
I do know what you're talking about, but
let yourself off the hook. Nobody saw the damn movie, Mike.
I know, but I didn't want to lie. I didn't want to be like, yeah, no, I saw it. And then you asked me a follow-up question. I'm like,
no. I don't think I saw the movie. But it was the culmination of that entire thing circling the drain that started like earlier. And I'm not going to go back and blame the American Gladiator Malibu, but like that whole thing, that whole culture. What's up, guys? Nothing matters. You know, let's go. Just a party, kids. No, that was the 90s. The 90s was definitely, we had a president playing saxophone on MTV. That's what you're going to get, you know. And they were fun, but then in this series of things, you hit the 2000s. Yeah. And the 2000s part is, hello, welcome to this game. In the following 2 pages, we will list the controls with absolutely no context. R2 is to gotcha. X is to spider roll. A is to spring. The rest of this manual will be legal disclaimers printed in size 2 font. Is this the PlayStation era that we're talking about?
The PlayStation 2 era. Like
this is the PlayStation 2 era, which was my grad school. Well, you were at NYU. Like that was my dude. Metal Gear Solid.
Oh, yeah.
GTA 3 was the system seller for me. I was like, I got to get that thing.
Yeah.
You know, and that fucked with my brain too. If we're talking about hearing your music when you go to sleep, GTA 3, I played so much of it in grad school that we shot a music video on film for a band called Bayside, a New York punk band called Bayside. I love that band. And they had me do their first video. And my DP, Jeff, said, I got a guy who can process the film in Boston, but we got to drive it up to Boston. He works in a lab. He can get us a deal processing the film and putting it on a hard drive so we can cut it. We drive up to Boston one weekend, and there's a flatbed truck, military, and it's got a tank on the back. And my brain, the first thought seeing that tank was, I should steal that.
I should just get in it. I can steal it if
I should get in it.
Yeah. Then I can drive a tank.
I could drive a tank. Dude, stop with the GTA. I know that the satanic panic happened in the 80s and we all heard not to play D&D. It wasn't, and people are like, oh no, video games will make you do it. No, only if you're dumb like me. Only if you're me.
I think though, like, even a dumb person has to be like, wait a minute. I think a tank drives different than a car.
You have those games? You said Super Mario World, of course you're going to hear that music because that music is earworm by design. Do you have those games where you're just like, oh, that slowly just started affecting my view of reality?
I mean, definitely Civilization, Sid Meier's Civilization.
How so?
Because one, I've been playing it since I was a kid. Like, yes. I played there was a Super Nintendo port of it that actually added like a weird goddess. Anyway, so
I remember that.
I would watch the news.
Slayer. Remember Super Nintendo Arc Slayer or whatever it was?
Oh, yeah.
It was kind of like that.
ActRaiser.
ActRaiser. That shit. That. Okay, so tell me about your Civ addiction. You're watching the news.
Well, like as a kid, I'd watch the news and be like, well, like kind of both a dumb and a smart kid being like, oh, it looks like they're doing this thing that they would do in Civilization. And so like as a kid, I would like see, but so I wouldn't be playing the game, but I would see international news and almost like, and not like think up strategies, but kind of like almost being like, oh, it's like the negotiation screen. And so I kind of like, it weirdly influenced how I saw like geopolitical events. And it'll still like happen. Like if I'm playing, like if I'm on a long run of Civ 6, I'm putting a ton of hours into it. And I weirdly will still do that occasionally. I haven't played 7 yet just because I'm waiting for it to get a little patched up.
Okay. I think you have to these days. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. But like if I do a long run of it, if I start watching like international news, like my brain will go to Civilization and sort of being like, oh, like that city's like that, like almost like automatic comparisons in a weird way. The way a child thinks, basically the way like a little boy would think is how I think when I see the news.
Allow yourself that. I think allow yourself that. When I'm playing professor at the universities or the college with the students, so many of them, Mike, especially they go to chat GPT. They don't want to. They have this thing, the cringe. Yeah, where it's just this fear of failure or fear of individuality, and it destroys their writing. They don't want to go out on the ledge. They don't want to take a leap. They do not want to take a risk. They don't want some level of individuality. They do not want to be cringe, which is such BS. It's total crap. It's total fear. And they're dealing with it on this online hellscape where they think that failure is going to be forever. It might online. Yeah, it might. But the bullshit invisible tightrope act that they think they got to walk is like keeping them from writing. So I tell them, and I said this, I was telling it to the Geekscape this weekend, who was like, I want to get back into art. I'm talking, I said this walking around Comic-Con, talking to people. I'm not afraid to go up to Jim Lee, head of DC Comics and one of my favorite artists of all time. I'm not afraid to go up to him and say, hey man, remember I bought you a coffee? I'm friends with blah, blah, blah. Like, here's my comic. I hope you read it. Yeah. I put my comic in so many people's hands. You have to. I'm not worried about being cringe. Oh, I can't believe you did that. Like, I proposed to my wife on the main stage of Comic-Con, guys. Like, I already cringed. And guess what? It was fucking awesome. And it's one of the things you'll look back on your deathbed and wish that you did. So you got to uncringe. But in my writing process, nothing's written, guys. It's rewritten. Yeah. So just effing do it. And my first draft, in the big bold letters. I call it the Scooby-Doo draft, because any problem I get to is, how would this be solved in a Scooby-Doo movie? How would this be solved in a cartoon, a Looney Tunes cartoon?
Yeah.
And it can be a giant mallet. It can be something loud, but you're going to put the human stuff later in revision.
Yeah.
And the whole point is to get to the end, to see what you have and what still resonates a week later when you go back, or a month later when you go back, or when the notes come back. If you stop yourself with the fear of cringe,
yeah,
you'll never start, dude. Like,
and cringe
it's rampant.
And cringe is an ever evolving thing. Like, what? I mean, it's really cringe is in the eye of the cringer. Like,
totally.
So the idea of, like, I don't know, the idea of censoring yourself or just not being vulnerable in your writing, it feels like, like you're saying, you're going to regret it later when you're like, oh, I could have been a writer, but I didn't, I decided that was cringe. It's sort of like,
the
you'll
AI,
have your grandchildren will be like, okay.
Going to ChatGPT to write your ideas, or worse, going there to make your comic or your art.
It's like, come on, man.
What the fuck, dude? There's nothing, like, come on, man. The best thing about art is the failure in it.
You know what?
Is seeing the texture in it.
But here's the thing is, I think a lot of people go to Comic-Con and they see people, I don't want to say like you and me, because that sounds kind of jerkish, but like they see people do these panels and they're like, that's what I want to do. I want to be the famous guy or the famous woman or the famous person on stage, and I want to get to give advice. And how do I get there? If someone else could do this for me. Like, you and I have definitely talked to people, who've asked for advice, who thought like we had some secret password that would get you into work.
It's failure, guys. It's failure.
It's failure,
rampant
and embarrassment.
It's rampant failure.
I have interviewed for dream jobs where I've said it was a dream job and did not get that job. That is cringy in a way. And maybe that, I don't know if that hurt me or not. At the same time, I was not going to leave anything on the field.
You can't. And I've walked out of so many interviews or so many pitches and been like, bro, you're too much.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay. But when there's that one person in the room who's like, oh shit, we can ride this guy like a horse into the ground. There's a lot. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh hell yeah. That you just need one of those people.
Yeah.
And what's the Gretzky line? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Yeah.
Like, it's that goes through my head so many times.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And what led you to write a book that was biographical in that way? Like, because there's a level of, we'll get real. Yeah. No, there's a level of vulnerability that you have to do in telling your life up to now. And I know there's a fun safety net of it's paralleled with video games. There's a lot of great, funny stuff in here. We got to talk about the fight in your family because of the power glove, because that piece of shit never worked. But like, what made you push through that fear? I'm guessing there was a fear there to be like, oh yeah, let me put some. It's dirty laundry, dude. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you putting some dirty laundry out there, and you're volunteering it for people who are close to you.
I mean, there's a double fear. One, there's a fear of being vulnerable, and two, there's other people I'm talking about in these stories.
Exactly.
And, some of them are people that I used to work with that still work at those companies, and I don't want to put, their jobs in jeopardy by criticizing the company or implying that that person was along with me on that critic. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. It's hard to distance yourself enough to try and protect the people around you, yet tell the story the way it needs to be told for it to be engaging.
And so there's that fear, but, and there's the fear of being vulnerable. There's there's definitely going to be people who read this book and they're like, who gives a shit? Or they're going to be like, oh, you got this? Like, you are revealing your life. And it is kind of like, the inspiration behind it was seeing all these books about music and movies and how they influence our lives. And I was like, I want something like that about games, because they're the things that really influence my life. And so that's what I set out for. Sort of like Patton Oswalt has like Silver Screen Fiend. I wanted to sort of do something like that, but for games. I think I started answering a different question.
Not at all. I think, when you're doing what you did, you have to be incredibly specific.
Yeah.
Because the specificity is what people resonates with someone, and they're not, maybe it didn't happen to a brother or a sister or this and that, but it happened to a father or an uncle or another relative. And you think about your own family members when Mike is talking about his family member. I've been in Miami once to connect to a flight. Like, that's it. But if Mike is talking about Miami, I'm thinking about Austin.
Yeah.
When he's talking about his hometown, I'm thinking about my hometown. When he's thinking about going off to NYU, I'm thinking about going off to Philadelphia. When he's thinking about his dorm, I'm thinking about my dorm. You know what I mean? In the same way that when you were talking about going to Chelsea Piers to write your first article, I was thinking about all these kids blowing smoke, thinking that they were freaking shattered glass level journalists.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm like, dude, these Penn kids took themselves way too seriously with this crap.
Yeah.
But they all want to go off and write for, I don't know, Wall Street Journal, New Yorker, this stuff. But like, I didn't. I want to be on the radio and play punk music. I wanted to interview people.
Yeah.
Hi, I like interviewing people. I like talking to you guys. But what's out there, somebody's going to resonate with that stuff. But if you try and distance yourself to protect yourself, you will miss it's like a net, right? When you're trying to catch fish, that if you cast the net so wide, the fish will run through it. A spear is your best bet. The specificity is the best bet. And you know that from comedy. I don't got to tell you.
I mean, well, absolutely. Like, and the thing is, I do meet people who are like, I've always wanted to do comedy, but, I just never tried. And you're sort of like, well, the only way to do it at all is to do it. And unless you're Michael Che, you're not going to be good at it at first. Michael Che just started doing comedy, was like immediately incredible.
That's insane. Insane.
He moved very fast.
It's hard, guys. Like,
it's so hard.
It's hard.
And, I don't know. It's hard to give advice because you sort of like you're saying, like, you have to fail. You have to be vulnerable. With stand-up, people are like, how do you start doing stand-up? You just go to an open mic, which is what I did. I was lucky I was in New York City, so there was a lot of open mics. But at the same time, I had to pay $5 and get on stage at an open mic and, basically bomb for 5 minutes.
Did you ever host a night? Like, that's the other gig you can do. You can host nights. Like, when I was doing heavy stand-up, 2008, 2011, so in there, like, we were just guys, it's LA. There was an open mic every night, and like, I ended up in some freaking pirate dens, man, straight up pirate dens. But then we got Geekscape to host Monday night comedy up here in the Valley, and we could just bring our friends and do, and it felt before it became Kamal Nanjiani and Jonah Ray's thing.
Yeah.
Before it became Nerd Melt, we had the back of Meltdown Comics.
That's crazy. I didn't know that.
The back of Meltdown. It was, who were the guys who put this thing together? And Jonah was in there. Gaston gave us that back storage room that became Meltdown, and we would do podcasts back there and we do all this stuff, but like, we had so much fun, and that felt like home court advantage because it was all geeks.
Yeah.
And we could just do geek stand-up, and I felt like I did really well then. And then I did one night main stage comedy room, and it was so bad. They weren't my people, Mike, and like, I had built up such a home court advantage that I go and I'm the only person I know on this bill.
Yeah.
And I'm in the back, and I'm like, fuck, I don't think they're gonna go for any of the G.I. Joe jokes or any of this shit. And this guy goes, hey man, you see that? I think you know this glass piano. He goes, hey, you know that mirrored piano coffee table right there? Rob Williams used to do coke on that. How fucking badass is that? It was like,
okay, all right.
Like,
that's not what I'm going for.
I hate all of you.
Yeah,
I do.
No,
it followed me out on the stage where I was like, I fucking don't want to do this.
Yeah,
and you can't do that, man.
I've definitely had that. I've definitely, where I'm like, I very rarely blame an audience, but there's definitely times where I'm like, I don't want to, not even like I'm going to bomb, but sort of like, I don't want to fucking do it in front of these people who are being mean to like every person. And not even, again, like, not like I don't want to bomb or I don't want to get heckled. And
heckle's fine. Heckle's fine.
Like, I don't want to do this shit if they're going to be like that. This isn't fun anymore if they're going to be jerks.
How are you with the heckling? I right before Ophelia, Geekscape was surprised. Right before Ophelia was born in August, I was doing stand-up all through May, June, July. Surprise! even as in a writing exercise, just as a social, like those are your friends sometimes.
Yeah.
And it was beautiful, but like the heckle, you're not allowed to heckle, and it's fine. I don't heckle, but if somebody heckles me, it's fine. Let's have a little conversation, my friend. Like, it's all good. You want something here.
Yeah, and it depends on the heckle too. Like, there's a difference between like someone who's like shouting something, but they actually think they're helping and they're into the show. They're just being rude, and you kind of want to tamp them down a bit. And there's someone who's bored and they're shouting something sarcastic, and then there's someone who's like outright racist or something, where you're like,
oh, that's easy pickings. Yeah, that you'll shut the F down.
Yeah,
just shut the F down.
But that's like the one where you're like, just get out.
You don't get a platform, pal.
Yeah, you don't get a platform. You don't get my jokes. You get out.
The person who's like coming at me, you want a platform? Let's go. Let's have a platform. Let's have a little bit of a conversation. But let me tell you, there's going to be a point where I say enough.
Yeah.
Thank you for your service. Goodbye. And I'm probably going to make you mad, and you can fight me in the parking lot. It's okay. I pay for Fight Club. It's fine. Let's do it.
Yeah, especially when it would happen, like when I was like the feature, and I'd be like, I gotta clean this up for the headliner.
Oh,
I would be so like, because occasionally, like, you would get that when I was on the road, when I'd open for people.
Yeah.
Especially like, places like Eastern Washington State, where crowds are a little rougher and pickier about who they may like.
Mm-hmm. Spokane. Let's go.
Yeah.
The alcohol. I don't drink. So like being out that late and having like is a kind of an alcohol culture. That's why I like the home court advantage of these geek comic book shows, man. I know you've done those comic book shows. I know you've done these. They're the best.
They're great.
But they don't toughen you up as a comedian. They're very home court advantage. They're very.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
The drinking though, I remember coming off stage of the Improv and one of the big comedian who, I don't know why I said this is so rude, but I don't drink. My older brother was killed by a drunk driver. Geekscape no. My younger brother, I think, drinks, but it's all good. He has his path. I have my path. My brother and I obviously get along, but I chose never to drink. And and he comes over and the radio show in LA for a bit, and he goes, it was great. Hey, we're getting along. And I'm like, oh, cool, man. I really like this guy on the radio. And he goes, let me buy you a drink. And I said, I don't drink. And he goes, it was such a hack ass hammy. I'm just one of those, I'm a man's man lines. He goes, I don't trust a man who doesn't drink.
You're like, okay,
and
all right.
It was worse than that. Back I go, great. I don't trust alcoholics.
That's actually much funnier.
That was the end of that conversation. Geekscape this. I don't know if my drink.
That's really funny.
Done. Goodbye. You got a morning show to get ready for in a few hours. Peace. But you know where I stand pretty quick. Jonathan, what'd you say to him? It's okay. You don't have to book me again. I don't know if they were my people, Mike. My people were at WonderCon this weekend.
And the thing is, like, the source of comedy now isn't just two networks and clubs, so you can kind of do that a bit more.
Yeah, my buddy Ron Swallow, who Geekscape us know, he has a couple. He dragged my ass out, and he's a nerd and he's fantastic, and all these nerds out here, all the nerds do the mics and stuff like that, and I have fun. I like it coming out and doing a little bit. But guys, Geekscape I'm not sharpening steel out here, man. I'm making comics, work on the films, do the Geekscapes, like that's what we're doing, and that's what I love the most. The stand-up thing for me is it's good to see friends.
Yeah,
it's good to write new things.
Right.
It's good to write new stuff, and I like that sharpening stuff.
Yeah.
This fight with your family talk to me about the Power Glove. No, wait. I want to talk. I have something to say to you, sir.
Yes.
You named You named the character I disliked the most in the Zelda game. I disliked the most.
Thank you very much. I'm glad I could help. Yeah.
Guys,
but I didn't make the character. I just
don't
named
you
him.
yell at me. Don't. No, sir. When I think of the character, I think of the name that you coined. You named Groose, the kind of Biff Tannen-like character from Skyward Sword.
Yeah.
Skyward Sword is a beautiful game, Geekscape. It is a wonderful game. I think it's a very successful like waggle control game. I actually loved the controls in Skyward Sword, and I will argue right now that the last actual dungeon in Skyward Sword, where it works like a puzzle box, is one of the best dungeons of any Zelda game, period. The final battle, in which your character Groose actually redeems a lot of himself, and I actually love that ending of Skyward Sword. Those things that are fantastic, overshadowed by a game that does not have a lot of exploration at all in it, and the Skyward Sword works like a lodestone and like sends you exactly where you need to go. There's not a lot of overworld exploration at all. It felt like the most un-Zelda game. It felt like a fetch quest. I was so sad about it. But the story, all that stuff, I like that it got redeemed in Breath of the Wild. I like that a lot of the Skyward Sword stuff, like the locations and things, you saw echoes of it, and you saw later versions of it in the Breath of the Wild. I thought that stuff was beautiful. But damn, I had to point out the fact that you named Groose.
I named Groose.
Do people call it to you and say, "You mother"? Nobody's done that.
No, nobody does that. Nobody does that.
To you.
Like my friends who are still at Nintendo are kind of like, "Why do you really hang your hat on that, don't you?" And I'm like, "Yes, I do."
Well, now what's that about? You take pride in having named Groose.
I think it's just like it's almost like you've really stuck to that thing, because I did a few things when I was there, but that's like the thing where I'm like, you know what, I did it. Like, I feel like I'll be 80 years old in like a retirement home being like, I named a Zelda character. Like, that'll be my introduction.
No, that is badass. Mike, there's no taking that away from you. That is badass. Zelda is one of my favorite franchises of all time. I will play it nonstop. And I actually heard that the Skyward Sword remake on Switch helped a lot. I'm serious. Guys, I'm a huge Wii fan. And I thought that the Wii combat on the Skyward Sword was fucking badass. And I loved how the bad guys had shields that would rotate, and you had to waggle to do it. And I actually do love the ending of that game a lot. I thought the ending of the game was badass, and Groose is in the ending quite a bit.
Yeah.
And he plays a key role. And I thought that went a long way in redeeming that character. I think I just exhausted my hate.
That's fair.
It's awesome. Those were my qualms with Skyward Sword, was that fee, the sword, it literally points you where you want to go.
Yeah.
No, come on.
There's a lot of hand holding.
Come on. Let's get you back in the saddle. Let's bring back Groose. When Zelda comes back and Link comes back, and they seem to be reincarnated in various iterations as they go on, they're part of it. Why no Groose?
You know what? I have
you inquired?
Answer for you.
Have you inquired?
I have not inquired. I kind of, here's the thing is, I kind of have like a thing with a lot of my Nintendo friends where I try to not ask them for like secrets or anything to like, you know what I mean? I never want to seem like I'm mining them, where I'm like, what's going on with the Switch 2, eh? Like, I just feel like, let's maintain the friendship without me violating it.
Did you watch the Nintendo Direct that just happened?
Yeah.
Okay, first off, Patapon 1 and 2, badass. Second, Dragon Warrior 1 and 2 remake.
Yeah.
The reason I was playing the Final Fantasy games, and I'm probably 3 years older than you or so.
Yeah.
Because Dragon Quest, which was remade or renamed, it was Dragon Quest in Dragon
Japan.
Warrior. Yeah, here in the US, it was Dragon Warrior.
Yeah.
That was like a free tie-in or something for the NES. There was something with the NES.
Nintendo Power subscription, maybe?
I think it was. And I ended up with Dragon Warrior, and that was my first JRPG. And that was it. Well, my friend was playing Phantasy Star on his Sega Master System, which was cool.
Yeah.
I miss the days of needing graph paper to play a video game, a video game, role-playing game.
I mean, they still make some like that, you know.
But you know what I mean? Going into the dungeon?
Yeah.
Going into the dungeon and having to use graph paper to draw the maps out.
Yeah.
That was the shit. And Dragon Warrior is the first one for me. And seeing that Nintendo Direct and seeing that Dragon Warrior, aka Dragon Quest 1 and 2, is coming back out, like, I hope there's a toggle feature.
Yeah.
Where you can see the original artwork, which they did with Dragon Quest 9 or 11 on the Switch. You could toggle it and play the old game. That was my stuff. The other big takeaway was Metroid Prime 4.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
I mean, they didn't show a ton, so it's hard for me to have thoughts. I mean, I think like it looks like she might have some new powers that weren't in previous games, which is nice because I don't want it to just be the same 8 powers. I'm curious where it goes and where it is on the timeline. So we'll see. I mean, I was more excited about like Tamagotchi Life.
Dude, Tamagotchi Life for sure. And bring back some Miis and I'm in.
Yeah. I mean, it looks like they'll have to.
Yeah, bring back some. Here you go. Look at this Skyward Sword. Bring back some Amiibo, and you got my dollar. The thing I say about the Metroid game, you've got a Mario game in Mario Odyssey, and it goes roughly open world. It becomes, I think, one of the best Mario games of all time. It's phenomenal.
Yeah,
you've got this Breath of the Wild, and before that, Link Between Worlds on the 3DS, and that's roughly open world-ish, right?
Yeah,
and that adds a new facet to it. I do not think you can come out with a straightforward Metroidvania Metroid game. I think we need an open galaxy Metroid game. And seeing that it was like, welcome to the planet blank blank, I was like, but you could leave the planet, right? Explore a solar system or explore an asteroid belt.
Had that before, so it's very possible, yeah.
But an open world Metroid game where, yes, there's a little bit of Metroidvania because you can't go to the ice planet without having ice shields, or you can't go to the magma planet without heat shields.
Right.
If you can't explore the whole galaxy until it opens up without getting weakened. But I think an open world Metroid game is long past time.
Yeah.
Explore this derelict freighter or something, explore this, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that would be great.
And so seeing the Metroid Prime 4 when it got delayed, and seeing how Zelda and Mario had completely had new life pumped into them, with this open world concept, I was like, oh, that's got to be what they're doing. Metroid Prime 4 has to totally be an open world concept, open galaxy concept. Welcome to the planet blank blank. And I was like, I want to leave. I want to immediately leave and explore other stuff.
Well, yeah, but I mean, that's still that might be in there too. I mean,
call your friends, Mike.
They're not at they're not even
messing with you. I'm messing with you. What, you like the Tamagotchi Life? What else are you playing? What are you currently playing?
I'm playing a lot of 2 Point Museum. I'm playing a lot of Avowed. Those are probably like the things I've put the most time into lately. I also replayed WarioWare Twisted on the Game Boy Advance, which is a fantastic game. The stuff with Ophelia running around, I think she just did a cameo walking behind me. Geekscape. Okay. I only have these phone games. Yeah. I have this DC Dark Crisis or something like that on the phone game. It's okay. It's an RPG. But Supercell, we were talking about them earlier with Clash of Clans. And of course, Brawl Stars, and we talked about Brawl Stars. They've got this new game that came out this week, Geekscape. It's called Moco. It's an invite. And Moco, I think, is funny because it's booger in Spanish. But this is like a fun Monster Hunter kind of fun. He could actually hear Ophelia. It's like a fun monster hunting game, and it's super cool. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Moco. I've been playing that, and I will send you an invite if you need an email invite. I might.
I'll send you a game invite. But it's totally different than the Supercell games, which I think we're getting tired. And it was super awesome. That's what I've been playing. So that if you guys came up to me at WonderCon and I ignored you, I was playing Moco. All right, let's talk about the fight, and then I'll let you go. Let's talk about the fight with the game with the
Power Glove. I mean, essentially, like, the Power Glove with the movie The Wizard and everything, and a ton of hype and commercials. Like, that was the gift I really wanted for Christmas, and I got it. But the thing is, the Power Glove was impossible to set up. There were 3 sensors that you had to put on your television, and it was like a sensor, another sensor that would lay on the top, and then a sensor that was connected to those 2 down the side. And the thing is, for some reason, the down the side was much heavier than the two on top of the TV. So you'd stop, and then it would immediately fall off, or it would twist out of shape. And the thing is, it had to be exactly like forward. If it was even a little askew, the Power Glove would not work.
Did you just start using the Power Glove as a traditional controller? Couldn't you do that?
Yeah, you could, I mean, even while wearing it, like, sometimes you just do that.
Like, enough of this.
It was so bad. And, like, my dad trying to set it up was just getting, like, more and more frustrated. Because I think, like, he was like, all right, yeah, I'll set up this little thing. It seems simple enough. Just put these on the TV. Never stayed. There was a point where you had to, like, tape it on if you wanted to do it, which no parent wanted to leave it that way because, one, something taped to the TV is bad for the TV, but also it looks insane. Like, no parent was just going to be like, yeah, leave those sensors duct taped to the television so you can play Super Glove Ball. It was so bad. And, like, I remember that, like, what basically became in my family was like a gauntlet. Like, my sister would, like, has punched me with it. I have punched my brother with it later after that. Like, it became like almost like we're getting into a fight. I'm going to get, like, literally like a weapon I can wear on my wrist that is like a glove with a hard plastic outside.
You wear it in soccer games as a goalie. Yeah. It was anything. You come home and mom's like baking with it. Like, it was good for anything but playing video games. And those extra accessories that tricked the big box store, that tricked the Sears and those guys into carrying Nintendo after Atari devastated the market. They still had Ataris in the back. They didn't want to take on a new Nintendo. They didn't want it. But they put that freaking robot on it. It's called an entertainment system. And they tricked their ways into these stores. Everybody's heard that story. It's legendary. It's brilliant. But that trackpad barely worked anyway. You tried playing track and field on that, you're going to tear your knee. Like, that crap didn't work. It was more slippery than Crocodile Mile. Like, F that. You know what I'm saying? Like, but how long did it take for you with that pad to be on your knees smacking that thing with your hands?
Well, we never had the pad, so, like, I'd be at friends' houses, so we'd play track and field, and it'd be like, oh, right, we're going to do the pad, because, like, I didn't have it at home. Yeah. And probably within 10 minutes, I was like, we can do something else now. Like, we could play literally anything else than this.
You end up on your knees smacking the thing with your hands.
And but, like, even as a kid, that's tiring, and I was, like, a little fat kid. And so I'm just like, tap, 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 tap. I'm like, okay, can we play, like, Ninja Turtles now, or anything else?
Dude, play Ninja Turtles, have fun, try and figure out how to throw the rope across that building at the end of that one map. Everybody complains about the underwater bombs in that, and yes, the underwater bombs is some bullshit, for sure. That is some near Battletoads level bullshit, getting those bombs deactivated in that underwater level. But once you do, and you get back to the overland map, you get to that rooftop. I don't know the combination of buttons to throw the damn rope across the rooftop, the alley, to access the other part of the map to get to the rest of the game. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I think I do. It's been a while.
That got us stuck. That was the I give up. We don't know how to get the rest of this game going. Like, we just busted our asses to not drown in the sewers to deactivating these explosives, which is one of the most famously rigorous stretches of any video game.
Very difficult.
It's very difficult. And you get to the rooftops and the overland screen, and you get to the rooftop, and you're supposed to access the rest of the map by throwing a rope across an alleyway. And, like a ninja rope, or, I don't know what the button was. I didn't know which button was. We tried everything. A, B together. B, A, B. Is there a menu? Is there something? Can you select it? Is it nothing? But
back then, you could not get hints that easily.
No, you couldn't. And you're talking to the kid who went to the Nintendo Championships and wore their shirt in his 7th grade photo.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Like, I should have known that stuff. I beat Battletoads on an emulator in college by quickly saving every time I didn't die.
Yeah, I mean, that still counts as beating it. Look,
there's no way. It took me all freaking night. Yeah. You remember that when you'd have an emulator and you would live a little longer, hit save, and then if you die, you go back to the save point and you'd stutter your way through a game?
Absolutely.
It's the only way I beat Battletoads.
I think that was the only way I could beat. For some reason, I really struggled with the Genesis Castlevania, and I think that might have been, like, the way I got through that one.
That one's hard as hell.
Yeah.
The Genesis was my system, and I loved it. Quackshot being the big game that I loved the most. Those overlooked games, that and Kid Chameleon. I love the CD-ROM era too. Another one that swept under the rug. I got to tell you, I don't know depression like I've known in the last year than when I went to YouTube and I looked up the cutscenes from Wing Commander 3 and Wing Commander 4 with Mark Hamill and John Rhys Davies.
God, I haven't seen those,
those guys
ever, but those were so good.
Dude, when you played those games, we had Malcolm McDowell at one of our conventions that we sponsored, ZombieCon, in Seattle back in 2011, 2010. And I went up to Malcolm McDowell and he's like, "Nice to meet you." I was like, "Jonathan, I'm one of the sponsors of the convention." We ended up playing Pictionary on stage, I think. But he introduced himself. Like, "I'm Malcolm McDowell." I said, "I know you as Admiral Tallwin." And he goes, "A Wing Commander fan." Yes.
That's so great.
But when do not go to YouTube and look up those cutscenes because they look awful.
I mean, yeah, that makes
They
sense.
are so incredibly pixelated. They're horrible. And if ever I wanted an HD remake of anything, it's those Wing Commander 3 and 4. Because those were, to me, cinema. And remember when Rebel Assault 2 was coming out on CD-ROM?
Yes.
And the big advertisement was the first footage filmed in the Star Wars universe since Return of the Jedi. I guess they forgot the Ewok movies, but that was the major selling point for those games was you got to get the CD-ROM game because it has the first filmed footage in the Star Wars universe since Return of the Jedi.
Dark Forces 2 Jedi Knight was like that too, where you're like, oh, I'm getting Star Wars movie scenes with Jedi and not Sith, but Dark Jedi.
That was badass though. When you go to the Valley of the Jedi of the Sith, dude, and you could choose to be good or evil.
Yeah.
I had to go good. I had to go good. Did you go good?
I went good.
Yeah, you got to go good. You're like me. And you're Kyle Katarn, dog.
Yeah.
Dude, everybody's like, we got to bring back Mara Jade from the books, or we got to have Mara Jade into the Star Wars universe somewhere. And I'm like, get me Kyle Katarn, dude. Give me Kyle Katarn and Dash Rengar.
Oh yeah.
Shadows of the fucking Empire up in this.
Yeah. 100%.
Okay. We got the deep cuts. Geekscape is, you can see that Mike is like, he's the guy. He's one of the guys. This is what you're going to do to reward Mike being my prisoner on Geekscape for this long. You're going to go pick up.
After this. I'm going right to
as you're listening to this, Geekscapists, first off, like, tell your friends about it. So you can fast forward some parts. Don't worry about it. Play it on 2D, like 2-speed. It's fine. I have no ego on it. But the main thing I want you to get out of this, number one with a bullet, pick up Good Game No Rematch out this week. I really ran Mike in the last hour plus through a bit of the rigors of vetting if he was for real.
How'd I do?
Dude didn't miss.
Thank you very much.
He didn't miss.
Thank you very much.
All right. I've had people on this show and I go right at them with the bullshit. I go right at them with the Kyle Katarn level deep cuts. And blow for blow, this guy, Mike Drucker, has been like,
thank you.
I'm returning serve, fool, and escalating the game.
I do my best.
Well, it's do the best. This is how we talk. This is who we are. This is ingrained in us like DNA. Like this is it's effortless to a socially destructive way.
Yeah.
Like,
1000%. Yeah.
My wife has to pull me away from conversations because the eyes have glazed over long since. And she's like, Jonathan, they're not Geekscape kids. Like, do not, like, they're normal humans. They don't want to talk about Kyle Katarn. Or how Dark Forces 1 is their actual canon for how the Death Star plans were stolen. As far as I'm concerned.
Honestly, yes. Honestly,
as far as I'm concerned,
I love Andor, but I kind of like still like, but still that like.
Where's the Super Troopers?
Time I played that.
Where's the Super Troopers? Where are the Super Troopers in Andor with the jetpacks? That shit was badass.
It was so good, and like the music was good. It was like the old Star Wars MIDI music from like 1995, like what you get with TIE Fighter or X-Wing.
Chills, dude.
Yeah.
Chills.
Yeah.
You get chills with that stuff. And obviously, when it comes to LucasArts and MIDI, my Monkey Island, man, bring me back. Bring me back to all that stuff. That is my favorite franchise. One of my top 5 franchises in games. Easy. Mike, thank you for doing this. Geekscape is please pick up this Good Game No Rematch. It's out this week. I want Mike to come join us at Comic-Con.
I'm gonna try. I'm gonna
no
try
promises. No promises that he can do it. But Geekscape is there a more appropriate place for him than at Comic-Con in San Diego?
No.
You got to do it, dude. We got to find a way to do it. And if you do it, if you can figure it out on your end, come do some time at the Geekscape booth.
I will.
Pressing palms, signing books, selling them. And hey, tell your publisher, listen, we're not taking any money from you. Like, no Patreon. Like, we don't do that. Like, if you come and sign at our booth, you want to sign headshots, you want to sign Samantha Bee DVDs, you just do it.
Samantha Bee DVDs.
I know I'm messing with you.
I wish.
I'm messing with you.
Wish.
Physical media forever.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to do, man, come do it at the booth. And we ain't touching nothing. We're selling our own stuff. To hear the prophecies.
No, okay? I appreciate that. I'm gonna see what I can do. No promises, but I will see what I can do.
Of course. All right. Geekscape, us, you know what to do. Share us 5 stars and all that on all the social medias. And thanks. If you subscribe, you're about to get a bunch of WonderCon content, interviews, and stuff that I recorded over the weekend as I walked around and had a blast. And thank you guys so much for a great weekend. I think Comic-Con Revolution is next in Ontario, which surprisingly in Ontario, California is actually an amazing con. You wouldn't think it, but it's awesome. So we have a lot of Geekscape coming. So please share with your friends and subscribe. Mike, thanks, man.
Thank you.
All right. Don't hate, create, folks. See you next time.